Oh, Supernatural, you're really starting to worry me. We're getting to the end now. Supernatural, Season 15, Episode 16, Drag Me Away from You. This episode was the third self-contained episode in a row, and it's kind of getting me a little bit worried now, since we're getting so close to the end. We only have 4 episodes left, and we've gotten episode after episode after episode that's kind of just self-contained and not really impacting the plot a ton. We've gotten little dribbles here and there, but really, is that enough? This episode finds Sam and Dean going back to a location from their childhood. They were summoned there by a girl named Caitlin, who was somebody they knew when they used to get dropped off at this little kind of crappy motel while their father would go off hunting. I noticed in the flashback they weren't able to get Jeffrey Dean Morgan to come play Papa Winchester for this episode. But they get dropped off, and then we kind of get this little flashback sequence that kind of tells you what was going on. There isn't a ton to this episode where I could really go on a whole section of non-spoilers before I go back and talk about every little detail. So we're probably going to head straight into spoilers. Like I said, it was a self-contained episode, so it's really not one of those episodes where there's going to be these amazing twists and turns, surprise revelations. It's really just kind of this specific episode. So Sam and Dean think they're coming back for the funeral of this boy Travis, summoned there by Caitlin, and it turns out that she lied to them. She had already had the funeral. Travis had died about, I think it was a week earlier, and she just summoned them there under the false pretenses of the funeral because she wanted to make sure that they actually came, because she needed them to hunt something that they hunted when they were kids. We get a series of flashbacks intermingled with scenes in the present day, kind of explaining the story, where Travis was attacked by this like ghost-like woman, I guess, when they were kids, and Dean tried to kill the creature straight up with a knife. They fought, and he thought he had ended this creature's existence, but it turns out that it had just been lying in wait, biding its time this whole time. Turns out that this creature is, and I'm kind of surprised it took 15 seasons before we touched on this fairly well-known myth, but this creature was Baba Yaga, the creature from folklore that tends to feed on children. It would stockpile these children's bodies and kind of keep them down in this factory that was in the town, and it would just eat them over time. When they encountered her, disturbed her little kind of nest that she had all of these bodies in, it went after them, and Dean managed to chop off the fingers that contained Baba Yaga's ring. And in the process, it cracked when it hit the ground, which ended up preventing her from being able to manifest herself this entire time. Travis, unknowingly, was given this ring by his mother, who was cleaning the rooms at the hotel, and he carried it with him as a good luck charm. A few weeks earlier, to where the present day storyline takes place, he had actually gotten the ring fixed, finally fixing the crack in the gem, and that's what led to his death at the hands of Baba Yaga. Beyond that, there isn't anything major to this kind of self-contained ghost story. They end up confronting Baba Yaga after she steals Caitlin away, and Dean just cracks the ring, destroys it, and that gets rid of Baba Yaga. It was just that simple. It seemed like, in terms of the complexity of the case, it seemed kind of like a first or second season episode. I don't really know why we're getting this 4 episodes from the end of the show, but very Monster of the Week, very first season, second season kind of stuff, where they're just coming up against some spirit where they just have to kind of destroy whatever family heirloom it was kind of tied to. We do get a little bit of main plot relevant action in this episode, and that comes in the form of a conversation with Billy in the diner. And she manifests herself to Dean and says that she just left the last universe that Chuck was going to destroy on his way to theirs. They are the last universe left. And he can manifest himself on this earth any day now. And we are kind of coming down to the wire where Jack is going to need to do his kind of last task to get himself prepared to go up against Amara and Chuck. We also find out in this episode, early on from a text message from Cass, that Dean had not told Sam yet that Jack was going to have to sacrifice himself in order to defeat Chuck. So I take back a little bit of the credit that I gave the show in the last episode, where we weren't going to have to go through any time having to worry about people keeping secrets. It turns out Dean wanted to keep the secret from Sam. He didn't trust him because every time something happens like this, Sam's got to go all moral and ethical, and we're at the point where it's crunch time. We can't get all ethical about this. We don't have to worry about all of the feelings and emotions wrapped up in this. That's kind of what Dean is saying to him. And they have a little, kind of argument in the car after the case. And it actually ended kind of like a real argument, where it wasn't somebody made this emotional speech and they talked about brotherhood and family and, we're going to get through this together. It was like Dean stated his point. Sam said he was pissed about it. And when Dean tried to apologize, Sam just told him to shut up. And they kind of rode off without resolving the issue, which is what real people do. That's what happens a lot of the time. An argument is going to go and you don't wrap it up in a neat little bow. You kind of just don't want to talk to each other for a little while. And you don't usually see that in this show. There's usually some big speech. They usually pull over. There's usually some kind of heart-to-heart conversation, and it all gets tied up in a nice little bow by the end of the episode. Maybe you have that little pan out close up on the person's face where they're like, oh, I'm still unsure, but at least they said all the right things. We don't get that in this. We don't get a little bit of closure at the end of the conversation or the argument, and I kind of like that. So what are my overall thoughts on this episode? If I were to evaluate it as a single episode, not even concerning myself on where it is in the chronology of the series, it was an okay episode. Like I said, it was very simplistic. It seemed like very early season. It's a spirit tied to an item. They were doing this way, way back. And I think it's a little bit too simplistic for us to tackle this close to the end. Not really sure why they decided to go this route, but it was kind of a typical Monster of the Week episode. I'd probably give it a middle of the road rating under normal circumstances, but going towards the end of the series, when we only have 4 episodes left now, I have to give it a low rating, because I think we're kind of wasting time on some of these. It looks like, based on the preview of next week, we're going to dive into plot relevance. And, spoilers if you haven't seen the preview, but we're going to see Adam, the first man, in the next episode. And that's going to be something that's going to be relevant to the boys. I don't know if that's going to be part of Billy's plan, where they need the blood of Adam or something. I don't know. It seems like something they would come up with. Or maybe that's an alternate solution that Castiel's come up with, or that they stumble across, that might be able to allow them to defeat Chuck without having to sacrifice Jack, because I think that's going to be kind of the thing that's going to tie up the next few episodes. I'm getting the impression we're going to get 2 prep episodes where they're going to try and figure out this alternate solution, and then we're going to get the penultimate episode. This is going to be leading up to getting them to their lowest point, and then we're going to get that final conflict episode. I feel like I'd rather them peak it mostly towards the end of the penultimate episode, so we can resolve it early on in the last episode and get some time to have a little bit of settling and a little bit of wrap up for this series that has gone on so long. But I feel like they've pushed it so close to the end that I don't know if we're going to get a lot of wrap up at the end. I think it might be one of those things that this whole plot, this series long plot, is going to get wrapped up with 5 minutes left in the last episode, and we're going to get a couple of goodbyes, a couple of little things said to each other, and that's going to be the end of the show. And I feel like that's going to be a little bit disappointing for people. It's possible they'll prove me wrong, and I kind of hope that they prove me wrong. I do want to get some time after everything is done to get a little bit of emotional closure on these characters. Who knows? We may not. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If you're liking these Supernatural reviews, definitely hit that thumbs up button. Leave a comment down below. What do you think it's going to be like for the last 4 episodes? Do you think it's going to kind of follow my pattern? Do you think it's going to be something different? Do you think we're going to get any more filler episodes this close to the end? Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know what's up. And I'll catch you in the next review, guys.